It is time for our quarterly How's the Market. This information is related to the final quarter and year ending of 2024. We've got national stats that drive what is happening in all local markets, and then we'll talk about those first. One of the first things that the policymakers are looking at is gross domestic product. So how is the economy performing? Goal is between 2 and 3 is what they're looking for growth-wise, right? So 2 to 3%. You can see here that GDP annual was at 2.9. So that's a healthy growth number toward the top end of the growth range that the Fed likes to see, and still healthy. So good news from a growth and strength of the economy standpoint. Now, inflation continues to remain as an undercurrent a concern. It's not anywhere near where it was in 2021, as you can see here. However, the goal for inflation, as stated by the Fed, is 2% a year. You can see here that 2024 finished more like 3%. The difference between CPI and core CPI, these are two big measures that the Fed uses when they're looking at how to measure inflation. And so know that core CPI pulls out food and energy, which are more volatile, right? So they pull those out so they can get a evaluation of what inflation is doing without the volatility of food and energy. Now, mortgage rates, specifically for real estate. How is this affecting mortgage rates? Well, what we're seeing is mortgage rates are continuing to remain in the high 6s. They're fluctuating a little bit. However, it's important to note that the average interest rate over the course of the last 40 years is 7.72. So while we are still high 6s on interest rate, that is lower than the average, and it still feels high. And the reason it feels high is because for a very prolonged period of time, you can see in this chart, from 2008, it started dropping, and it remained very, very low until they dramatically started raising interest rates. When I say they, it's the Fed, dramatically started raising interest rates in the back half of 22 and into 23. Now, what are interest rates projected to do this year? After cutting interest rates in November and December, the Fed left rates between 4.25 and 4.5 at their January meeting. Their verbiage is that they're going to probably lower rates maybe 2 more times. That's projected in at a 65 chance that there'll be 2 more rate cuts. The good news is the Fed has lowered rates a full 1% from their 2024 peak. So just know that while rates still feel high, they have been lowered a full 1%. The goal is to continue to bring those down, possibly 2 more times in 2025. The federal funds rate and the interest rate that borrowers are getting on home loans is different. So projections are that interest rates will come down in 2025 and normalize toward the federal funds rate. They won't go to the federal funds rate, but they'll come down toward that. Now, home sales. If it felt like there were fewer sales than normal, it's because there were. So you can see here there was about 3.83 million homes that sold. That was one of the 3 lowest number of homes sold since 1995, as you can see illustrated on this chart. So there were fewer homes selling. Now, how does that impact local and residential? So our local market is Atlanta. For your own local, you would want to look at that if you're not in Atlanta. What we're going to dive into is the Atlanta local market. So supply and demand. You can see that supply is increasing in a number of the price points. Across the board, there is about 2.9 months of supply, which is up from the fourth quarter of 2023, about 20%. So this is data that we've aggregated from the end of 24. Now, what's really happening in the market? So there's from a sales standpoint, homes that are selling on the market, there's 2 categories. There's those that are no price reduction. So that means they hit the market, they're priced correctly. Those homes are selling at 100% sales price to list price on average in 13 days. Again, on average, so some more, some less. There's another category of homes that still sell. So those are those that reduce their price in order to sell. Those homes are selling in about 86 days, okay, so about 3 months, and they're negotiating off their price about 8%. So again, some more than 8%, some less than 8%. And remember, those are just the homes that are selling. There is another category. These are the homes that fail to sell. Right now you can see across the price points, it varies a little bit. So at the high end and the low end, it's a little higher at 50+% of homes that are not selling. Then you can see more in the mid ranges, you're in that high 30s. Across all price points, when you bring it together, 40% of homes are failing to sell. So when we put all this together and you bring in the homes that sell and then the homes that do not sell, 59% of homes are selling. 41% of homes are failing to sell. What you find is that about 30% of homes are priced correctly and they're selling very quickly. There's a lot of demand for quality product that is priced correctly. Then you move over into this other category, and that's the 70% of the market that is overpriced. Of that 70%, 29 are still selling, right? And 41 are not selling. So this is a really big deal when you look at the pricing of the market. So if you're a seller in this market and you think, oh, I'm just going for this extra money, I'm gonna price it high and it's still gonna sell, the data is saying that there's almost a 50% chance that it won't sell. And there's a, if it does sell, there's a 50% chance that you're gonna be reducing your price significantly. Right? Now, if you're a buyer and you're looking for a good deal, what the data is telling you is to look at homes that are aging on the market and go hunting, right? So you just decide who you are in this market. If you're gonna jump in on the ones that you feel like are priced great and they're in great condition, you will be competing at a high level, even in this market. Now, this is just, I call this baseball, right? So when you look at this, you can just see what we've talked about. 41% priced so far outside the market that they don't sell, 29% chasing the market. This is reducing price in order to sell. And then 30% priced correctly, selling at list price on average very quickly. That's what's going on in the market. That's the market that we are in here in the first quarter of 2025. Crush it, we're stronger together.